Okay, YouTubers, this is Joe from ArtAlienTV. Happy New Year to you all. I hope you're all well. I've got a few new Gigapans for you to look at today. I've got this one here. This one is called T-shaped dunes. Now, this is what NASA called it. This is from the high-rise camera on the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, and is a really nice, high-quality, really nice quality satellite image of a bunch of T-shaped dunes here. Now, I'm going to go back to that in a minute. Basically, I've got another one here, which I've uploaded recently. This took a lot of work to get this one right, because some of the images were very dark and some were very bright, and I had to equalize them a lot. But this is a really nice Gigapan. This is Sol 1492. And as far as I know, no one else has put this up yet. I've looked at other people's Gigapan sites, and they didn't have this one. And I thought this was really nice. And there's a couple of things in here to look at. In fact, there's loads and loads of rubble on the ground, and I'm sure there are many things I haven't spotted yet. I'm only going to point out a couple of things in each of these. And there's this set of images here, which I made into a Gigapan. This is Sol 959, Gale crater, again. And we have a couple of gargoyle type things in here, which is really cool. So let's do this one first, and then I'll work through the other three, and I won't take too long. There's just a few things I've pointed out in each one. I'm not going to point out everything that I've spotted, because a lot of it's too vague and too small, not really worth showing, because you can't see it in any detail. But this one was good, because what we got here, we got a really nice view up here of the Forbidden City on Mount Sharp here. And you can see the domes and the pyramid. There's the pyramid, just there. Let's get the magnifier. There's the pyramid, slightly damaged, with a big rectangular structure behind it. There's the three large domes on Mars, which I've shown many times before. This one's like a ziggurat shaped thing with a dome on top. There's another one here, and the giant one there. Okay. Now I've made many videos about those, and you can see those on my channel. But that was just a nice view, and I've done an enhanced clip of that view here as well, just to make it a bit clearer. And you can see those shapes really well. Okay. Got the domes, ziggurats, and ruined buildings in between, and then the large pyramid here. And then we've got the foreground here, okay? So this, I think, this area here is looking south. This top one, that's looking south at Mount Sharp. And this one here at the bottom is looking north, in the middle part of the image, is looking north, away from Mount Sharp, okay, towards the north of Gale crater. And on this ridge line, if you go to this one here, we've got this ridge line sticking up, and then you come down the slope, got lots of rubble on the slope, and as I've said many times before, when you see a ridge line, often there are things at the bottom of the ridge line where the sand has eroded away. And a lot of these things are probably burial figurines, and we have one right here. And this one seems to be sitting. Now, I'm not 100% sure what this represents, but it looks like a gargoyle to me, with two legs here. These are the shins at the front here. Got one here and one here, and there's a foot, and then it's got a very large head, and his butt is just here, so the legs are going back like this, and then we got a strange gargoyle. Now I've done an enhanced clip of that for you to have a look at. Let's get in close. Let's not go in too close, because if you get too close, it just blurs. Now, what I'm saying is these here, to me, although I could be wrong here, but this looks to me like a sitting position gargoyle. In other words, we've got a very large head, we've got a nose here, an eye here, another eye here, and he's sat with his head or his chin there between his knees. There's a leg here and a leg here, and those are the shins, like I said before. Seems to be wearing boots of some sort, or it seems. And that's what I'm seeing anyway. It's very odd. I may be seeing it slightly wrong. Often when you look at these things, it depends on your experiences, really, of how many other gargoyles and statues and things you've seen. I've seen a hell of a lot. And I've travelled all around the world and visited lots of archaeological sites as well. And the more of those sort of things you see, the easier it is for you to spot one, because you have a wider visual knowledge. And I'm not saying I'm cleverer than everyone else. What I'm saying is I have a wide visual knowledge because I've seen lots of things. If you visit enough churches and cathedrals and look at all the gargoyles around the world, you get to recognise these things. And incidentally, there's two heads just behind this thing. There's one here and one here, but they're very small and they're pretty vague, but you can just about make them out. Now, as I've said, this magnifier is really useful. There's a head there with a nose and a mouth and an eye there. And there's another one here with a nose and a mouth and two eyes. This one's got two eyes, but you can see that this one here, where my pointer is a bit more prominent because it's facing to the right. There's loads of these in this image, but a lot of them are very small and a bit vague. And some of them are probably just rocks that look a bit like heads and faces. But there's another one here, actually, which I didn't mark. This looks like another head. You've got the nose here. That line going across is the mouth or upper lip, and the chin sticking out, adjusting chin. That's what it looks like to me. And there's loads of weird, complex kind of stuff like this here as well. Now, I don't know what this represents, but it looks like some kind of wreckage that's calcified in mud and dried out and hardened. But it's weird. There's some complex things sticking out of it, almost like metal bars or pieces of reinforced steel or something. Who knows? Who knows what it is? There is lots of concrete in the area in Gale crater, and as I've said before, they were using metal bars and stuff like that to go through the concrete to reinforce it like we do on Earth. So they were using quite advanced building techniques, not just cutting blocks and sticking them on top of each other or making mud bricks and then making structures out of mud brick. They were, later on, I'm convinced that they were making quite complex structures. And obviously, when you look at the stuff up on the mountain, these are massive. This thing is about 500 feet. This is probably 600. This is probably 300 or 400 here. Of course, on Mars, with lower gravity, you could make structures very, very large indeed. And it would be a lot easier to lift the material and put it into place as well. Not only would you be much lighter, feel much lighter, and be able to bounce around and jump 10 feet in the air without much difficulty, you'd be able to move much larger objects and make bigger structures because of the lower gravity. So is that a gargoyle? It looks like one to me. I could be seeing this wrong, but this looks like a sitting gargoyle with its legs in front and a very large head. But it's a bit unclear, and it's probably broken. There's probably parts missing, as with a lot of these things. A lot of them are smashed up, and we got lots of debris and broken down, smashed up architecture around as well. And we got some weird stuff over here. This looks like another couple of heads here. This one here, you can see he's got two dark eyes and a puggish nose and a smile there. It's a bit vague, but that's raw. If you can see it in the raw image, then it's probably there and it's probably real. And there's also one next to it here, which is very alien looking. This here. You've got, that's the eye, I think, or eyebrow. That's the eye. It's there. And there's the nose here and the little mouth at the bottom. It's very alien looking. I could be wrong with that one, but it looks like it's shaped like a head. And some of the head shapes on Mars are pretty weird. Elongated, a lot of them. Some of them were kind of dwarf looking. Some of them are sort of insectoid or reptilian looking even. So there's a big variety of head shapes and facial types in the art and statuary on Mars. And there's examples of this all over the place, including one right here, which is very vague, just here, like a reptilian looking face. Now, I haven't enhanced this is completely raw, but I think I did do a clip of it here we are, where I basically colour corrected it, and there you can actually see the details a bit more. There's that one, with the two dark eyes, puggish nose and a mouth there. But this one, let's go a bit smaller there, because if you get too close, it doesn't get any clearer. This looks like a reptilian head here. And we've got teeth-like structures here. This is the mouth, this dark bit at the bottom. Here. That's the mouth, there's the nose, and you can just about make out some eyes, but it's very vague. And there's an ear here as well, very large ear. Very strange. I mean, this is an alien planet after all, and you can't expect things to conform to our rather narrow parameters on Earth, okay? If you did, you wouldn't be a very good space detective. There's another one here, but this is also very vague and quite small and far away. This looks like an eye here, and a nose and a mouth. You may not be able to see that, but they're complex and a bit vague, and the images are quite blurry, as usual. I've done my best to clean them up. Then there was this one up on the hill, up here, somewhere. I've marked it. There it is. Right on the other end, to the left of the image, is another gargoyle here, next to a kind of little figurine statue. Let me show you the raw image there first, right? There's an alien-looking head there, right, in grey. And then we have a figurine here. There's the head and the body. But this is really strange, this one. And I'll show you the enhanced clip over here, which I've added to this, because this one was weird. And it looks like another gargoyle. Now, these were the sort of things you would see on top of a church or around the, just below the roof of the church. They're there to sort of ward off evil spirits and that kind of thing. On Earth, gargoyles go right back thousands of years, many thousands of years, and a lot of them are related to Bez, who was a demigod in Egypt, who was like a little bear with kind of sharp teeth and was only about a foot or two tall. And the people used to have effigies of Bez in their front room or in the porch of their house to ward off evil spirits. And it kind of, a lot of it comes from that. A lot of the gargoyles you see come from these ancient demigods. Which were called demons, of course, by the Christians. But they weren't really demons, they were just demigods from a different religion. Doesn't mean they're evil necessarily. A lot of them were very good and had brought good luck, much like Buddha would do, and stuff like that. So that's all good. But on Mars, of course, they may have very different ones to us, and it does seem they had dozens and dozens of demigods and gods and similar religious beliefs to some of our early religions on Earth, at least from what I can tell. Okay, and this is another example. Now, this is not a great quality image, unfortunately, but you can see here the head with an eye there. You've got a nose sticking out, a mouth and a chin, and the body is sat on something, and you can see a hand here with a thumb and 4 fingers, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then you've got some weird sort of details down here. Now it almost looks like a two-headed, or what would I call it, like a Gemini statue, where you have 2 heads kind of together, or you have like a lot of the time you see with gargoyles, their bodies are actually heads for some reason. They're sort of they represent mutation in a way. It's really odd. It's hard to explain, but it looks like there's some weird details down here anyway that looks a bit like a weird head and a mouth with teeth at the bottom here. But I think this is actually the body and the head's at the top, so it's hard to work out. And you've got these weird little structures around the neck, like a necklace here, 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 and here. And you can just about make out the eye there, and a hooked nose, and a sort of jutting chin. Now the image quality isn't great. I can't do much about that, I'm afraid. I didn't create the images. And then we got the grey head here, which is very strange. You got the very dark black eye there, a big sort of rounded nose, and a mouth with a bit of teeth detail in there, and a very big, massive ear, it seems. Very strange and very reflective, that. In fact, much more reflective, this one, than all the surrounding rocks in the area. So there was that Gigapan. That was just a quick look over that, really. There's a bunch of gargoyles in here, and then there's probably more that I haven't mentioned because a lot of them are too small and too vague. I mean, you can start finding loads of stuff in here, but a lot of these are really tiny. So that was that one really. So that's Salt 959, okay? More Mars gargoyles, and there will be a link for this below in the description. I'm quickly going to show you this one here. This is 1492, Sol 1492. I haven't actually given it a name apart from that. And there's loads and loads of rubble in here. I'm sure there's loads of things I haven't spotted yet. You could probably look at this all day. This is a huge gigapan, this one. It took a lot of work. And the main thing I found to start with was up right at the back here. This is the edge of Gale crater here. And I think we're looking northwest. Mount Sharp's down here. Yeah, this is Mount Sharp, the lower slopes, and the Forbidden City is just there. You can see the peaks of those domes and the pyramid there, just about. If I zoom in, that's the Forbidden City. So we're quite a long way off from it here. And then we got all these ridges and so-called buttes, a lot of which are buried structures or dilapidated buried structures. And if you go right along to the other end, almost right to the other end, we come to this one here. Now, it's not the very end one on the right, it's the next set of buttes here. And we've got a bunch of them here. These are structures, right? And as if to bring that home from this angle, this one here has got a huge box-shaped part on the end of it, which confirms my theory that a lot of these are actually structures. You can see this huge rectangular shaped structure on the end with another rectangular shape in the middle of it, next to another rectangle here. Now, no one can tell me that this is a natural structure, and the one next to it also looks like another ruined, dilapidated building as well here, because you have the top part which is straight, then we have the sloping part below. These are the top parts, the remains of the top parts of buildings that have become ruined and buried in sand. They've got the sand blown up against them. Okay? If you excavated these, I'm sure there'd be loads of chambers, possibly even artwork and valuable gold items and statues and things inside some of these structures as well. They're not just burial structures. A lot of them are burial structures, but I think a lot of them aren't. Just because we find lots of skulls and burial figurines in the area doesn't mean they're all kind of crypts or mortuaries, okay? We shouldn't make that assumption. I think a lot of them were actual working buildings or living buildings for people to live in. They weren't just put here to bury people in or to put their skulls in. A lot of these, I think, some of them at least that I've uncovered, have got little rows of chambers along here in layers. So you have a row of chambers at the top, then another row further down, then another row further down, and then each chamber would have a skull of a dead person in it, and often a figurine with it. And there was an interesting thing down here. This is part of probably another building, like a gargoyle. And we have here, in fact, you can see it right there without having to do anything. You can't zoom right in, so you're going to need a magnifier to look at this. We have another gargoyle carved out of the end of this large rock here, which is probably on top of a structure which is buried below. And this is maybe the sort of the top part of the building, or at least the sort of gable end of a building near the roof of a building, perhaps. And we've got a gargoyle just there, and you don't have to enhance it in any way to see it. You can see the two eyes and the mouth here. It's a funny shape. It looks partially broken or eroded, but that's what it is, another gargoyle. So gargoyles are all over the place. So much like we have on churches and cathedrals on Earth, they were putting them on their actual houses as well, probably, for some reason, to ward off evil spirits or whatever. And then we've got this one, which is one of my favourite new kind of space images that I've come across, called T-shaped dunes. This is ESP 0242132540. Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter image, and we have this bunch of dunes here which form these T-shapes, and I'm not entirely convinced these are just dunes, as with the giant gourds that I showed recently, which look like kind of a cross between giant gourds and cacti. Now these, incidentally, these are absolutely enormous, some of these. This one here is one of the smaller ones, right? And this is something like 100 meters across here. So inside this one here, which is not the largest, right? There's some which are double this size. You could fit a football pitch, right? That's how big these are. These are absolutely huge, right? Unbelievably huge. And some of them are double that size or even triple, okay? That's the sort of average size one, is about 100 meters across. There's 100 meters on the measure there, and that just about fits there. So this is actually larger than a football pitch, the length of a football pitch. And we got the spines on it here, like a cacti. And they do kind of look a bit like tomatoes, mainly because of the colour, but they're not. I think these are either a type of gourd or cacti, or some kind of weird in-between species that we have no knowledge of. Okay? These are absolutely stunning. Now, I've shown these lots of times before, and here's one that's rotting down here. You can actually see where they leave these black marks on the ground. As I've said before, I think these contain liquid and flesh, and as they rot down, they probably create alcohol, ethyl alcohol, and a byproduct of alcohol when it's created is carbon dioxide, especially when you have rotting vegetables or fruit, because the fermentation process creates carbon dioxide and it leaves these black stains where they're outgassing carbon, which leaves these black stains on the ground. You've got a black stain next to this one here, you've got a black one here, and they've all got these, and the black stains are nearly always right next to these nipple-like structures, which is where they're outgassing, okay? I call them, there's more like an anus really, but let's not go down that road. See there? You can see the black part coming out. Now, this is the one I did a video about recently, Mars Giant Veg. So a lot of you would have seen this, but what I'm doing here is I'm trying to compare these to the T-shaped dunes because they're similar in colour, but not the same shape. These may also be a type of growth on the surface. It is possible that these are a similar type thing, because when you look at them closely, they've got the same kind of black carbon stains on the ground, and I do wonder whether these carbon stains are caused by these things outgassing as they ferment. But these may actually just be dunes that have formed over some of those gourds like we have here, and the sand is frozen in a funny sort of pattern covering them up. Because the weird thing is, if these are sand dunes, why is there no sand in between them, right? Now I really don't understand how NASA came to the conclusion and called these frosty dunes, right? Because that's what they call them. They never realised all that time that what we have here are life forms, and that these are all around the sort of northern hemisphere of Mars in the melt zone, which in the summer the ice caps would melt and form temporary sort of large puddles and lakes all over the place. So there is a yearly water supply, and they could probably, like cacti, go a very long time without water. Okay, and they may send runners right down into the ground below the permafrost to drink that water when it goes subsurface, perhaps. So I do wonder whether these T-shaped dunes here, so-called T-shaped dunes, are related to those giant gourd or giant veg fruit, or what I'm going to call them now is Jofruit, okay? Not jackfruit, but Jofruit, after the discoverer, of course, right? Because these really do look like cacti with spines, and if you look carefully, you don't even have to magnify it actually on this one. You can see the spines around the outside, right? See those little spines? Now these would collect water on them and act like a dew trap as the frost forms on them during the night, the very cold nights, it would then melt in the morning, and then dew would form on these and then run down onto the thing, right? Which may then absorb that water, okay? So there is a reason why plants on Earth have these little spines, and that's exactly what they're for. Not only to protect them from vermin, but also to collect water like a dew trap. So there's some interesting stuff going on here. So now I'm kind of looking at all the dunes on Mars and trying to rethink what might be going on and what processes might be forming these, and why do they seem to appear like this without any sand in between them. Now, if these were sand dunes, surely there would be sand in between, right? Why is the sand only stuck to these things? I think these may be another variety here, a different shaped variety of these giant gourds, okay? Now, these are the rounded variety, which I call giant gourds, or giant veg, or Jofruit, as I'm going to call them from now on, right? Which are actually probably a type of cacti. There's a lot going on here, and I really don't think that just calling them frosty dunes is doing them justice. Because if these were dunes, then surely there would be sand in between. Now, on a lot of them up here, you can see where they've joined up, and you've got long lines of them. But as I said with the giant gourds, or giant veg video that I did a while back, some of them are breeding, and they form these long tubes, and then baby ones then sprout from those tubes, right? Like birthing tubes, or pods, like a pea pod or a runner bean or something like that, and they grow along the ground and then they separate, okay? As I've shown in a few videos recently. So I do wonder whether some of these dunes here, these T-shaped dunes, may be a different variety of those Jofruit that I just showed you, right? But a different variety that grow in a different, slightly different way and a different shape. Is that possible? I think it is possible. But unfortunately, with these, we can't really tell either way. They may actually just be dunes that have formed over something on the ground and then frozen, supposedly. That's what NASA says about these. But what are they forming on? Are these vines underneath here? You've got these long ones here, look, that form like long patterns and they join up. There's a whole bunch of them up here. There's some crazy ones up here. They actually look really cool in black and white as well. You look at the black and white part of the image here. They're absolutely insane. And they're like tubes with baby fruit inside, like Jofruit. So if you haven't seen my video, Giant Veg on Mars, check out some of my recent videos. That will explain this. The Giant Veg video here, best videos. Check that out. But there's also an update on that I did recently, which is this one here, Mars Plants Cause Methane. I recommend you watch that. And also this one here, Mars Spiders and Alien Alcohol. And it explains a lot of the things that I've touched on today. If you haven't seen those, I do recommend them, because there's a lot more going on with these so-called dunes and structures on the ground. NASA often makes up very mundane and boring names for these things, and they often turn out, when you look at them a little bit more closely, to be plants, okay? So check those out. So that was about it for today. Check out the T-shaped dunes, check out the gargoyles, and the structure here in Sol 1492, right here. And like I said, if you want the magnifier, you can get this from multiple browsers. It's called Hover Zoom, and you just look it up in your extensions, and you can add it to your browser, and you can use it from Firefox or Google, and perhaps other browsers as well. So check that out. Very handy when you're looking at these. So thanks for watching, everybody. Happy New Year to you all. I hope you're all well. I will see you soon.